You're listening to The Weekend Take. And now your host, Sean Schaefer.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Weekend Take. I'm your host, Sean Schaefer, and with me this week is one of the hosts of a free podcast, Rob Lumley. Rob, how are you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, glad to have you on. So, Rob, tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about a free podcast and the Midnight Boys.
Yeah, so Free Podcast is a clever name we came up for our podcast. Unfortunately, the SEO on it is really bad. So, but it's a free podcast or afreepodcast.com. And what we do is we kind of look at movies and we do seasons around themes. So, for example, season 1 was about cinematic fail sons. So we looked at movies that had a fail son, which we sort of define as someone who was born on third base but can't get home. So like we talked about Gladiator and Batman Returns and Harold and Maude, and then we even went like silly with like Billy Madison and Tommy Boy, and even more into the horror genre with The Omen. And finally, we talked about The Graduate. And we also have some bonus episodes that we've talked about. And our second season is on fear and phobias. So, for example, our first episode will be about the movie Open Water. So that's kind of the thread that we start with. But we tend to, my friends Joe and Duff and I, we tend to go on tangents quite a bit. And before we had done that project, we were in the minute by minute world. We had done Titanic Minute, which is looking at the movie Titanic minute by minute. So there was an episode for every minute. So there's 195 episodes. And then before that, my friend Joe and I had just done Tombstone Minute, which is the same thing about the movie Tombstone, only 130 episodes, being a much shorter film. So yeah, and the Midnight Boys is just sort of the name that years ago, Joe and Duff and I were friends in college, and my now wife would call us the Midnight Boys because we would stay up late at night watching movies all the time. So we just decided to use that for the name on podcasting as well.
How does one go about making an episode for every minute of Titanic? And at some point, does your mental acuity break down?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of, people who like the show kind of said that by the end it was less about the movie and more about like watching three friends trying to deal with each other and finishing this project. And it just got more and more off the rails as we went on. We had one episode that we didn't say anything. We just, without mentioning it beforehand or afterwards, we just did a full episode about a random episode of Cheers. We just released that as like one of the minutes and just like never mentioned why we did it.
What was the Midnight Boys' consensus about the door? Could Jack have fit on the door with Rose?
We don't think they would have, just because of buoyancy and trying to get on there without flipping it over. And the fact that they were trying to do this while they were like freezing to death, literally. I don't know. Like, that's one of those things where like none of us are very big fans of like the movie plot hole people. Or I know there's like YouTube videos and stuff where people just love to like harp on like, oh, how could this happen? Just forget it. That's just a waste of time.
Season 2 surrounds phobias.
Yeah.
I know what some of the lineup was, but then there was an episode that you were going to let the fans pick.
Yes.
Or at least the fans generate the field of options that then you guys would then pick from.
Correct.
How far along in that process are we? Have you made a selection or?
We have not. It's up to vote between 3 movies. So the 4 movies confirmed we're going to talk about are Open Water. We're going to talk about Twilight Zone or Nightmare at 20,000 Feet, the movie version as well. The 40-Year-Old Virgin, the documentary The Nightmare, which is about sleep terrors. And then the listener's pick is up for a vote right now, and that's between Arachnophobia, Buried, and Dead Ringers. And you can vote for that and go to afreepodcast.com/fear and then choose which one we're going to talk about.
Nice. In the comments section when that was posted, aside from saying that, oh, you should do Killer Clowns from Outer Space for people who don't like clowns.
Yes.
But I think I had also commented on Buried. So it's nice to see that other people agree. Because when I watched Buried, that just made me feel claustrophobic watching it.
Yeah.
Definitely be interested to see if that one wins the vote. Now, aside from doing a free podcast, you are also an avid fan of your Milwaukee Bucks.
I am.
Yes.
Yes, I am an NBA fan. My Milwaukee Bucks are the best team in the NBA right now, which fills me with great joy.
Looking at the field of teams before the season started, who would have thought that the Milwaukee Bucks would be the best team in the NBA at this point?
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially with all the talk of, oh, LeBron's going to LA. There we go. LA is a team to beat. And now LA is sitting on the outside looking in, possibly not even getting into the playoffs. So
the Warriors are still the Warriors and probably, regardless of record, the best team. But hey, if it's Bucks Warriors in the finals, that would be super exciting. And no one will expect the Bucks to win. So it's house money at that point.
How about other pro teams out of Milwaukee. Are you a Brewers fan as well?
Yeah, I'm a Brewers fan. They had a great year. And obviously I live in Wisconsin, so I'm a Packer fan. Like, that's kind of like your birthright.
Hey, you're looking at getting possibly a couple receivers, looking at Antonio Brown and Odell Beckham Jr. So
Yeah, we'll see if that actually happens. Generally, I think trading for a star receiver is generally not a great idea. They don't generally bring titles, especially when your team has holes everywhere else. But, if it happened, I'd be excited. Why not?
how do you format the show in the sense of what'll be 5 episodes?
Mhm.
And then how long of a break do you take before talking about season 3 with the guys? Or is it just kind of, it happens when it happens?
It kind of happens when it happens. I think we had about, between the end of season 1 and the beginning of season 2, we probably had about 2.5 months. I would probably like to shorten that a little bit, but it's holidays time. We all had vacation. So it kind of is based on scheduling. And to kind of smooth that up, we did 2 different bonus episodes. We did a Christmas episode on Scrooged, and we wanted to jump on the Zeitgeist and talk about Bird Box. Even if there's a break, we generally will keep providing content for our listeners.
Yeah, I checked out some of the Bird Box episode. I think that opening line was one of my favorites. You said Sandra Bullock. Does anybody else find it odd that Sandra Bullock? What's the line?
I said that she's a dead ringer for Dangerous era Michael Jackson. You watch Bird Box is 100% true.
Oh, I have to bring myself to watch Bird Box, but
I don't actually watch Bird Box.
no, it seemed like the general consensus from what I heard was not of a positive one. And
Yeah.
you and I talking during gaming sessions seemed Bird Box was not worth watching, but
No. But it is worth listening to us talk about it at afreepodcast.com.
yes. Speaking of which, so aside from the website, which I'll be putting all the pertinent links in the episode description, so afreepodcast.com, what other ways can people check out what you do, a free podcast, Midnight Boys, like social media handles, otherwise?
We have A Free Podcast is our Twitter handle as well, and Facebook. If you go to freepodcast.com, you can see us on Spotify, Google Play, iTunes, everywhere. The problem is if you look up a free podcast, it's going to be like, oh, do you want to listen to Joe Rogan's show? It's free, which is not the intention. So sometimes if you just look up Midnight Boys, all our stuff will come up. And then we also have domains for Titanic Minute and tombstoneminute.com. Our handles on Twitter and Facebook are also at simple Titanic Minute and Tombstone Minute.
One more thing on Titanic Minute. Were you surprised at the reaction that you got from a Titanic Minute based on listeners?
Yeah, Titanic Minute was much more successful than I would have thought. We actually we won Best Podcast in Madison, so we have a little award. And then we had a rap party the week after our show ended, and there was about 50, 60 people that showed up, including some people from out of state, which was amazing.
But I was saying, like, you and I were talking about just the sheer numbers of people actually listen to every episode of Titanic Minute.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the problem with the minute by minute thing is if you're going to get into it, you got to listen to every episode. It's wild because a lot of people who found our show just love Titanic. I mean, either the ship or the movie, and they just sort of like looked up Titanic podcasts and they found us. And like, it's really wonderful because people will tweet us even now that they started listening to it and that they are binge listening. And then like about 2 months later, they'll be like, oh, I finished it. It was awesome. And I'm like, that was like 80 hours.
What's the length of one of the episodes?
About 20 to 25 minutes is probably an episode, which is easier when you're listening to it, every day when it comes out, right? It's kind of like your commute that you listen to. But when people find it late and they binge it and they love it, especially because like they don't know us, right? I mean, they just like Titanic, and for whatever reason, they give us a chance at minute 1 and listen to the whole thing. It's pretty amazing, and I'm glad that people like it. And to answer your question, I think overall, if you listen to every episode, that's 77 hours of content.
Oh my goodness. 77 hours to listen to, and that's 77 hours you guys had to talk about Titanic Minute. So I can see how mental stability was probably breaking down by the end of it.
Yeah, we were falling apart.
Now, did you do minutes including going into the credits or just picture?
Oh man, credits, the whole thing.
There's like 12 minutes of credits in that movie.
Yeah. Listen, if you're going to do it, you're going to do it right. We did the whole thing. Yeah, and for the credits, we had like different topics and different guests would come on. So we didn't like talk about the names on the screen. We talked about just different larger topics. Yeah, it was fun.
Thanks, Rob, for sharing a bit more about yourself and a free podcast. So again, everyone listening, go to www.afreepodcast.com afreepodcast.com, and you can check out the Midnight Boys and Titanic Minute and Tombstone Minute. And I think right now the Bird Box episode is the one featured on the homepage. Yeah.
Yep. Bird Box is the most recent.
Great. Like I said, thank you for sharing that with us. And that, like I said, that wraps it up for us this week on The Weekend Take. I want to thank Rob for joining us. The Weekend Take is also on social media. We're on Twitter at Weekend Take. We're also on Facebook, facebook.com/The Weekend Take. And be sure to check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/The Weekend Take. There you can become a patron and receive early exclusive access to extended cuts of the episodes in case you want to hear more of the conversation that Rob and I had today. I want everyone to have a great day and take care.
You've been listening to The Weekend Take. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes and Google Play and follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Visit our Patreon page to become a patron of The Weekend Take, and for as little as $1, you'll receive exclusive content and perks.